Jen Ripple's daughter has gone into labor, so she wanted to be there. And John Thomas from Covey Rise apparently broke his ankle and also could not attend. So you've got just us, but it's a good panel. At the bottom there is Joseph Ballarini, the publisher and founder of Tailfly Fishing Magazine. Mark Potts, who is the managing editor of Alta Journal, magazine of California. And Tony Frost, who is the vice president of TV Guide magazine. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about, I think, sort of the meaning of print proud, digital smart. And I want to start with Tony because it's a great story, because what we are looking at with TV Guide is not your great-grandfather's TV Guide magazine. It has a wonderful, amazing legacy, something that I'm familiar with, having grown up in the magazine distribution business and being very aware of the impact that TV Guide used to have on that business. But it's a very different publication now and has some pretty exciting digital offerings. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what TV Guide is today now and what your digital offerings are.
Well, I think I'd like to go back in time first, and between when Dwight D. Eisenhower was inaugurated as president and the end of the Korean War. It was April the 3rd, 1953, and TV Guide was launched with a cover that breaks every rule that Liz places on Parents magazine, with a solo baby looking very miserable, an inset of Lucille Ball, and the headline in the tiniest type possible, Lucy's $50 million baby. That was the first ever TV Guide cover. So we celebrated our 65th anniversary, and there was some considerable discussion in the office as to whether we should even recognize the 65th anniversary, but there were some pretty creative ideas thrown around, and one of the fears was, well, if you celebrate the 65th wedding anniversary, you really are telling the public that it's your grandmother's magazine. But the editorial team came up with a great idea: the 65 best episodes of the 21st century, which brings us up to the current time. And I won't tell you who was number one. You're going to have to pay $4.99 to find out. But that brings us up to the present. And the present story is a pretty good one. As you guys who are familiar with the newsstand know, that last year wasn't a good year for most titles. The industry, I think, average was down 16.1%. In the second half of 2017, TV Guide went up 7.3%, and that's a significant number at a time when everybody else was going down. Some publications were down 30% in that second half. And one of the big pluses of the second half of last year was that we went back to basics with fall preview, and we had the biggest sale for a fall preview issue since 2013. In 2013, we put out, the draw was 460,000 copies, and in 2017 it was 300,000 copies, and we sold hugely at newsstand. That was the cover, about as simple and basic as you can possibly get. And so that was a great story. But we've had quite a few good stories, and it's a very exciting place to be at the moment with TV. So the blurred lines of TV, trying to make our readers recognize what TV is, giving them great guidance. The mantra at TV Guide is better guidance, more utility, and that is what the fall preview issue gave them, and why it sold so well. But we've done quite a lot at TV Guide. We've cleaned up the subscription file. We've probably got the cleanest subscription file, one of the cleanest subscription files in the whole industry. We've got 1.275 subscribers. About 5% of our revenue comes from newsstand, 20% from advertising, and 75% thereabouts from subscriptions. There's no indication that our subscribers are dropping off. We're pretty solid with that 1.275 number, and we We have streamlined the whole operation. We brought in a new editor-in-chief who started at TV Guide as research manager, went to managing editor, and he understands the reader inside out. And we've renegotiated all of our major contracts, distribution, pre-media, print, freight. We've moved the subscription. We used to outsource the circulation department. We brought it in-house, and with some considerable success.
That's a pretty rare thing.
It is a rare thing. It is a rare thing. The pattern was to outsource, definitely. But we decided that we're small. We're a small company now compared to how it used to be. But but 10 years ago, TV Guide was losing $20 million a year. Mm-hmm. We now have no debt. And we've streamlined the operation, and instead of taking instead of taking those savings and taking them to the bottom line, we're reinvesting in digital. Now, I don't know if you know this, but TV Guide had a revolving door of owners, and in 2008, Macrovision sold it to Open Gate, venture capitalists, and
did you say vulture is
Freudian slip?
And they stripped the company right down, and then in 2013 they sold TVGuide.com to CBS for a reported $100 million, and that left them with a print magazine and no digital presence. So they launched in a pretty low-key way, TVinsider.com plus TVmagazine.com. But anybody who wanted to know about TV Guide online, they go to TVGuide.com, and it was owned by CBS. So go back to October 2015, TV Guide was bought by a company called NTVB. They became the number one consumer owners of consumer television publications in the United States. They had a listings magazine called TV Weekly. They have Channel Guide. They do. They've done magazines for cable networks for years. It was a perfect fit, and the main partner in the company, Andy DeAngelis, brought me in February 2016, and I've got to say it's really exciting.
Well, that's
really
good.
Exciting.
Mark, you mentioned you put the Washington Post onto the internet back in the early 90s.
Even before the internet.
Even before the internet.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. What do you find is sort of a difference between offering up Alta Journal as a digital offering as well as your print offering, and how is that different from what you were doing back in the 90s?
Well, we have technology now that actually
that helps. Yes.
works. I think Alta is a magazine about California. It's kind of like a New Yorker for California, started by William Randolph Hearst III, who's the chairman of the Hearst Corporation, although this is not a Hearst Corporation magazine. It's a personal project of Will's. And it's kind of like what happens if a magazine was started by a bunch of digital people, because we all have digital backgrounds. It's an old school magazine, but we're very cognizant of digital. And one of the things we're cognizant about, which really gets to your question, is timeliness. Is how do you, when you're a quarterly magazine, how do you stay in front of people when you disappear for 3 months at a time? And that's where we use the web and social media, is to stay current with stories, with social media interaction, eventually with podcasts and video, to try to stay in front of people literally every day, so that we don't, publish January 3rd and then disappear until April 3rd. So that's really been the challenge, and that comes from, I think, obviously our background in news and breaking news, in a more constant publishing pattern where it's not even a daily thought. It's just constant. You just don't stop publishing. There are no cycles. There's no editions. So yeah, we print every 3 months, but we are online in a constant flow.
And what were your challenges, Joe? Because Tailfly is not very old.
No, not at all. We actually started as a digital publication.
Okay,
and-
so similar to Jen's magazine Done, then?
Correct.
Okay.
And we transitioned from digital to print. I think we started out in year 4 with 36,000 digital readers, and we figured we would probably cannibalize most of them because we're going to start charging, but we would pick that up in print. And we converted about 10%, maybe 15% of them to print, which we also offer the digital as well.
And did you lose actual digital
Oh, yeah.
readers, or did you pick up new ones? Or?
It's in flux all the time.
Okay.
But we definitely angered quite a few people who had a free magazine for years that they were fond of, and suddenly were forced to pay for it. And I got some hate mails from people saying, this was free, why do I have to pay for it now? And,
Maybe because you want to feed your family?
Yeah. Fortunately, they're coming back, and I see the trend is definitely upward, where from year 1 to year 2, we've grown about 37%.
That's great.
Yeah, and our newsstand sales are now becoming, they were nothing to start, and now they're about 25% of our revenue, maybe 30.
Okay.
So it's picking up.
That's excellent. This is a question any one of you three want to pick up and grab. I've been fascinated to wonder if there's some sort of intersection between print and digital. In a lot of the companies that I work with, sometimes it seems as though there's a print silo, there's a digital silo. The marketing and the circulation people are usually hiding under their desks in storage room B. That's assuming that they haven't been outsourced. So the question is there an intersection between the readership? Is there a way to convince or encourage a print reader to also add digital offerings to what they're taking from you, and vice versa? And will they also pay for it? Anyone want to grab that?
Well,
Or tell me I'm crazy?
with TV Insider, we find that the readership is a large part of the readership is different to the print readership. It's younger for a start,
Okay.
and we again the mantra: better guidance, more utility. We have a very well-respected senior critic, Matt Roush, who is one of the backbones of TV Guide. His reviews are extremely well received, very well read. He's migrated to TV Insider, and he does 5 picks a day on what you can watch, and that gets a big audience, a big online audience by comparison with other things that they put online. So there is a way of migrating from a mature legacy publication, print publication, to online. But it's not something you can do overnight. It's going to take a while.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, there used to be podcasts at TV Guide. They packed them up about 10 years ago. We're going to reintroduce those. Video. We now do trailers to a lot of the shows and put them online, and that gets a big response too. So I don't know if the question I've always heard at board meetings at previous places I've worked is, well, when will digital revenue overtake the print revenue? Mm-hmm. And I've kind of under my breath said, not in my lifetime, I hope, but of course it's different now in that more and more publications are embracing digital, embracing it seriously, and trying to find ways to best combine the best of print with digital.
Okay. Well, let's break the whole phrase down then. Print proud, digital smart. Mm-hmm. What would the print proud part of that be beyond the fact that, wow, I created a magazine?
In my industry, there's probably about a half dozen digital fly fishing magazines, mm-hmm. and they all have the same ads, they all have the same stories, the same pictures, mm-hmm. And it's kind of hard to differentiate between, what makes yours better. Mine's unique because it's a fly fishing in salt water, it's the only publication that focuses on that topic. But I think it became relevant and permanent when I went to print. I think going to print kind of separated me from the pack completely.
Okay.
And there's, I'm now approached by some of those digital publications who are asking me how I did it, and how expensive was it, And I tell them all, I'm like, don't do it, you'll lose your house.
That might work.
I think we try to mix the streams. I think we want to be print smart and digital proud on both sides. I don't think we want to emphasize one over the other in terms of pride. We want our digital offering to be every bit as beautiful as the magazine is, and we want to be as smart as how we're coming at print and how we're marketing print as we are in digital. So I think there's no differentiation there. It's the same challenge on both sides.
So in other words, you're breaking the rules and crossing the streams.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Ghostbusters analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same challenge for TV Insider as it is for TV Guide. I mean, last year there were 1,500 primetime series, 500 plus scripted TV series, 194 channels, when most of us only watch 17. So we're trying to work out what is of greatest value to our print audience, what's the greatest value to our digital audience. And again, for us, what is TV? My two sons, I ask them, what are you watching on TV? They say, we don't watch TV. They haven't got a TV, they watch everything on their computer. But it's still TV. I mean, is TV Handmaid's Tale from Hulu? Is it Billions from Showtime? Is it NCIS and Blue Bloods from CBS? Is it Netflix? I mean, we're still working out. We're still working that out, but it's a very, very exciting thing to try and work out. And we discuss this non-stop every single day, and we come up with new ideas to try and make sure that both the print and digital can benefit.
Good. So we all have social media. It's all a must-have part of publishing these days. What kind of successes are you having with it, and how is it helping you perhaps drive your digital audiences or help you expand your print audiences?
We're very specifically trying to use Facebook to convert into print subscribers.
Okay.
It's too early to tell how well that's working. We're seeing some examples of it. So we just started in the last few weeks. But we deliberately are doing Facebook campaigns that are designed to move people into print because that's where the money is. And again, it helps us, stay current and stay in front of people. But that's really we're taking it to that level, is how do we use the digital tools to support the print product that way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a similar experience. Facebook's actually excellent. It's an older demographic. Mm-hmm. Instagram and the others are more the millennials and younger generation. But it's I have big success with Facebook promos, converting 50 and up to print.
What about with Instagram? Because you mentioned earlier when we were talking separately that you've got a pretty good following there. What happens for you on Instagram?
We just started it. It's about a year old, and we have about 13,000 followers. And we do contests and we do giveaways. And that's actually great for traffic, but it's fleeting traffic. They'll come in, they'll take a look at the digital publication, and then they'll disappear. And it's a constant flow of traffic. And I can check it on my phone and tell you right now, but I think our demographic there is 18 to 27 or 18 to 25 in that range, which is our biggest peak. So we hit the young audience for digital with Instagram. We use Facebook for the older 40 and up, basically. And it seems to work. I don't know if you have that experience as well, Mark.
Yeah, pretty much. I think one of the challenges also of digital, and it has always been the challenge of digital, I've grappled with this for 25 plus years, is how do you get people to click a second time? If they come in, especially now because people come in off social media, off emails, off whatever, they come in looking at one specific thing, but how do you broaden their visit, get them, extend their visit, get them to find something else to click? And that's something we're still grappling with. We haven't quite figured it out in site design because we want to get up and running quickly. But we're trying to find ways to get things in front of people. Say, hey, you liked this story, you might want to stick around and read this story, which is somehow related to or is about also about California or something. So we're working on that. Just how to get people to stick around longer because it is so fleeting and time on site is so quick.
Okay.
One of the things
that's the every page a homepage argument.
One thing what we're trying to do at TV Guide, TV Insider is we get tremendous access to the shows, the stars, and whenever we do an interview, we try and persuade the show producer, the star, tweet about it and increase the social media involvement. And we've had some significant success with that.
Okay, that's good. Supposedly, print is a legacy business, which in many ways it is, but the way that we do print now and the technology is very, very different from what it was even 10, 15, 20 years ago for sure. And it's the same thing, it seems to me, as well in digital, in that the tools that we're using now can oftentimes be very different from what was even being used, say, 5 years ago. So how are you handling the constant upward curve in technologies, and what are the challenges you're running into as you're doing that?
Well, I started actually hosting and creating my own digital book.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought the software and uploaded everything to an FTP and hosted it on my own site. And it was a nightmare because after about a year, the software was outdated, Flash was on its way out. And then I started looking at other options. Ended up with a company in Orlando called Blue Toad,
Mm-hmm.
who they have engineers and they have software engineers on staff that constantly upgrade the equipment. So it's taken that aspect out of my hands. If there's a problem with the app or with something on the website, it's fixed within 3 or 4 hours.
I agree with that. And I think you have to keep a really open mind when new technologies come along, and not it's a mix of skepticism and open mind. You can fall for a shiny new object and chase something that turns out to have no viewers, and you can say, oh, nothing's going to become of that, and it turns out to be Facebook. So but it's staying ahead. I mean, it's changing constantly, and it's really easy to get stuck in, well, I know this technology, I'm just not, I simply can't. I mean, I literally will say, look, I'm just not doing Snapchat because I just don't have enough room in my head for every technology out there. But you've got to stay open to it, and you at least have to employ people who understand those technologies. And we have a fantastic web editor who is far more fluent in Instagram than I will ever be. And like, fine, go do. That's where we need to be. So it's staying open to those technologies and being willing to be, what word we used at the Washington Post 25 years ago, promiscuous about what platforms you're on and what you're experimenting with.
Well, let's take this at a different angle then, especially in terms of resources, because we're dealing with 2 relatively new publications, one legacy publication that's not as large as it used to be, but within the universe that we operate, there's Hearst, there's Condé Nast, there's Meredith, there's a lot of very large publications and lots of resources, lots of availability. So then how do you compete, say digitally or in the print world, with those actors perhaps sucking up a lot of the advertising dollars, a lot of the attention, a lot of the space in digital?
Well, certainly in terms of TV and so, if we try and compete with those giants, we'll lose. We've got to develop a unique voice, a unique position. And we've brought in a new editor-in-chief, Samantha Westfall. She's got brought in a new staff. I'm probably the most digitally challenged person in the universe, so I've employed a couple of consultants to help Samantha. They're producing an app, and we're in a position where we have an open mind. We want to try it. We want to spend money, not a fortune, but we want to spend money and develop this site.
Okay. What about in the people who don't have 1 million subscribers?
Well, he's a giant compared to me. Everyone here, I mean...
It's all
there's only
relevant
3 of
in the
us.
end.
We're a tiny little group.
Yeah, but we are in such a small niche. Saltwater fly fishing. I mean, there's probably 38 million fly fishermen. You isolate maybe 35 or 40,000 from that focus on salt. So we started making the magazine in print with 2 of us. And I had a creative director and myself. And we just kind of have added people over the last couple of years to kind of fill in the gaps. And now we have a staff of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about the smallest of small, but it's a tight ship and everyone's accountable, which makes it nice. And that's what actually makes it work for us.
Well, I think focusing on the niche and staying in the niche is really important. It's no great secret that magazines, specialty publications, have always been really successful. You've got to stay in your lane. You've got to make sure that you're covering what you say you're going to cover, and your readers know what they're going to get. You concentrate in salt. You don't go put fresh water in there. My Will Hurst occasionally says, let's do something about somewhere else in the West. Let's write about Utah. And I'm like, no, we write about California. We got a lot of stories to cover in California. And yes, there are aspects of the West that we want to get at, but I don't want to sit around and make up a story list about Arizona because there's too much to do where we're focused. Why lose the focus? I think
you don't want to go after Arizona highways.
No, I want to stay laser focused on this fantastic well of content that we already have, without getting too broad about it, because I think you start losing the identity of the magazine.
So what Mark's saying is absolutely right. It applies to TV Guide. It applies to TV Guide. When NTVB bought TV Guide in October 2015, it didn't know what it was. I think it was pretending to be People magazine. You'd have the hottest hunks on TV. Who are the hottest hunks on TV? The 25 sexiest women on TV. And that's not what TV Guide's about.
There were like movie stories on the cover at one point. It had nothing to do with television at all.
Ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, it's all about, it's about guidance and utility. And there is an ability to watch what we want, when we want, and where we want available to us. And we just have to curate and tell the readers what's worth watching, why they should watch it. And I was interested in both James and Linda last night mentioned the 5-letter T word, trust. It's exactly what TV Guide's about. It's about trust. Trust, we have to be 100% accurate 100% of the time. And can you imagine if we get the listing for NCIS wrong, we say it's on NBC or ABC and not CBS, and we put it at the wrong time, and we get the wrong plot line, we'd be thrown in the trash faster than a speeding bullet. And that's what that is exactly what Mark's saying. What applies to TV Guide.
Okay. What about let's continue on a little bit the thread with competitors. So, how would you then differentiate yourself from what your competitors are offering in print or digital? How do you make sure that you stand out and you grab some of the attention, even if the niche is very small?
I'm going to say the stupidest thing you can say in Silicon Valley, which is we don't think we have competitors. And you always have competitors. That's the thing that always gets you thrown out of business pitches. We just don't really look, we don't really feel competitive in that way. We're doing what we're doing. There are other folks doing similar things who do a great job. I think, there's California Sunday Magazine, which is not as focused on California. They tend to wander off and do stories about the Middle East and other things. So that, I think our differentiators were staying focused that way. But we also do something really interesting. Online, we point to their stories. Mm-hmm. One of the things we do in our daily online product, in the newsletter, in the website and social media, is point to really good stories about California from other publications. We don't care where they're from. We just want people to know they're there. And we think that's our value as curators and editors, and saying, look, here's really good coverage of California. You don't have to wait 3 months for us to come out again. Just here's good stuff you should read, and here's 8 or 10 stories you might want to read about California today.
Do you ever recycle those, your digital offerings into print?
Stuff that we write, yes. Not from competitors, but from things we write, yeah. We'll put something up in print. Something up online that'll show up in print a few months later.
And so is your print then longer form, your stories in the magazine?
Print is generally longer form, and it's a little of everything. It goes from 500 words to 3,500 words. And we also parse them out online. We don't put everything up online at once because we want to protect print sales, which there's a little bit of an internal debate about that. And we occasionally get a note from readers saying, how come this is in the print edition and I can't find it online? It's like, because it goes up on May 10th. Because we parse out stories, a couple stories a day, or a couple stories a week, from the print edition onto the web. But the stuff that's written specifically for the web is generally shorter. Mm-hmm. We have a web editor and who will do things just to give us some fresh content, and sometimes those things make their way into print.
What about you, Joe?
We do something very similar. After the print versions had its course, we kind of recycle it into digital, and we create a blog, and we figure content, SEO, it's all building, and we post that blog link on Facebook or the social media with a new photo, and it drives a lot of traffic. And then a lot of times people say they subscribed if they happen to call, or we can get an answer out of them. But they say they read the blog and they really liked it, and they ended up subscribing to the magazine.
That's a good way to convert.
Yeah, it's painful as far as the workload and cutting things down and new photos, and I just need more staff.
And do you ever go the other way, though, with
No.
take some of the blog ideas and turn it into a story for the print magazine, or?
No, because usually, I hate to admit it, but the blog and the digital content is not up to the quality that goes into the print. And to rewrite it, it's just not worth the effort. So we just leave it. It's good enough for a blog, good enough for digital, because it's very short. It's not anything more than maybe 300 or 400 words. And we just kind of write what we need.
But it's enough to
It's
enough to grab somebody and get them to
Absolutely.
write you a check for $48.
Yeah, well, but we also have, keep in mind, before we went to print, we had 4 years of digital material
Right.
that we recycled onto the blog. So that was all new, because a lot of people didn't know we existed until we kind of went to print. Most people find us in the bookstores, or they see it in the fly shops. And we've hit that really hard. We just partnered with the Orvis company. So they have, I think, 71 retail stores in the United States that are going to be carrying the magazine as well.
Nice. That's terrific. I forgot where I was going to go with this. That happens occasionally, I guess. Well, let me ask you this. Now I recall, along the lines of digital, let's talk e-commerce just for a minute. Because Covey Rise, if John had been here, one of the things I would have told him was how much I happen to have admired what his actual retail offerings were. And it is part, I think, of being digital smart, is you have to have a wide variety of things that you can offer people who are coming to find you. And obviously you can have these things as well in your print magazine. And it's very different from what it used to be, where you subscribed to Time magazine, they sent you a clock radio. So do any of you have e-commerce? What are some of your challenges with that if you're doing it?
We don't.
No, we don't. We don't. But I'm open to ideas, and I think we'll have a discussion about e-commerce when I get back next week.
Well, what we are doing is events. I mean, that's sort of the other
okay.
angle of that is finding ways to use events and partnerships. We've entered into some partnerships with some like-minded organizations, San Francisco Film Festival and a couple of bookstores in San Francisco and LA, and a couple other groups, to do things together with them where we can, leverage the value of their customer base and their list, and our customer base and our list, and our access to people and their access to people. So we're doing, joint book signings. We're at the LA Book Festival this weekend. I'm really proud of this. There are a couple of people who've written for us, freelancers who have books coming out, and we got them book signings at these bookstores, which has nothing to do with us. It's just kind of a goodwill thing for our authors to help them sell some more books and provide our partners with some more events. So yeah, the events is really where we're focused.
Mm-hmm. Anything on your end, Joe?
We do have products. We actually have a full line of pretty much our own brand, but we also carry some of the larger brands. And what we're doing for 2019 is we're co-branding with some of the more popular, manufacturers, I would call them, even though they're probably smaller than us. But Howler Brothers and Rep Your Water, too.
Okay.
So they're going to do our branded hat, but with co-branding, of course. That'll be offered. We have, in the shop right now, we have our own stuff. So you get a subscription, 2-year subscription gets you this, 1-year subscription gets you that, or your choice of these 4 things. So we do a lot of that. That helps, especially around the holidays.
Sure. With Samir's permission, I'm going to steal one of his famous questions, if that's okay. Gentlemen, what keeps you up at night? Aside from mortgage payments, perhaps, or yesterday was tax
with
day.
me, it's binge watching.
Binge watching.
Yeah. I'm into something at the moment called Occupied. It's a Norwegian political drama. I saw season 1, and it has subtitles, and The night before I came out, I watched 4 hours, and I went to bed about 2 o'clock.
Okay.
If that's what you mean about keeping up. But
No, I was
if you're
thinking more
saying-
along the lines
If you're
of...
saying, what do I worry about?
Yes, there you go.
No.
Nothing. That's
no,
awesome.
grandkids and stuff like that, but nothing to do with those days were. When I was at American Media running the Inquirer, a bit different, but
Okay. Understandable.
Yeah, I sleep pretty well too. There is an issue though that I think is important that's kind of unsaid in the digital versus print debate, which is print is a finite well that has to be filled every issue. Digital can be anything. I really learned this running newspapers because you had to fill the newspaper, you had to put 5 stories on the front page every day, and you couldn't just decide one day you were going to take a couple stories off. And it's the same in the magazine. You've got to have enough to fill 68, 72 pages, whatever, each issue. It's not that hard in a quarterly, but it still is a factor. I had a story fall through a couple days ago, and it's like, okay, what's going to go in that hole now that we're 3 weeks away from production deadline? That's not a problem online. Online, you just put up as much stuff as you have, and if it's too much, that's great. If it's not enough, people aren't going to notice because it'll be too much the next day. So that's an interesting issue that still is a legacy problem of these finite print containers that we have.
Joe, you sleep well?
I sleep okay. One of the issues I have is telling Samir that I'm not actually going to change the cover or listen to him sometimes, which is difficult. 40 years or more in the industry, and I have a whopping 2. So it's difficult to kind of go against him sometimes. And there's my biggest issue really is, as the owner of the magazine, I have people that rely on it. Not so much myself, but others. And that's really my concern, is I really want it to fly.
Sure.
And that way it can take care of the families that it's currently taking care of.
Sure. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, I'd be real curious. There's a whole debate between writing, at least in our job, the difference between writing for digital and writing for print. I have digital folks insisting that it is very different, and I have people on the other side of the equation saying a great story or great narrative works in either space. Since you started digital, now you're trying to move over to physical, and then some of you have done the other way around. What would you say? How would you advise that debate between those two camps?
And that's directed at me?
If anybody.
Okay.
I'm in the great writing is great writing school.
I agree with that. However, I do find that the quality has gone up since we've gone to print. And a lot of, when you write for digital, especially the bloggers that write for us, they tend to incorporate the keywords that we identified as SEO targets. So the writing kind of suffers because they're trying to work those words in. So it is a little bit different. I see where it can be different, but I agree, good writing is good writing.
I think there is influence in how you think about the magazine and stories for the magazine and what I would call entry points, which has always been a challenge in print. But how do you find ways to bring people into a story? And you can't just give people 3,000 words on a gray page. And I think that's something we're influenced by in digital, because there are more ways to interest people with interactive things and video, et cetera. So I think in looking at print, you're looking at ways to put an infographic up or even an interesting pull quote or something that gets people in. To me, it's a user interface question, which is very much a digital issue.
For TV Insider, we don't really do long articles. It is different. It's definitely different. There's a lot of rewriting goes on for TV Insider.
Any others?
You guys are all producing very high quality specialist content. You seem to be the perfect candidates to be getting people to pay for that content online. Is that something you've thought about, putting up a paywall and actually kind of moving to a fully kind of subscriber-only model?
Yes. We'll get there. We actually think of it more from a membership standpoint. We're trying to develop what that is. What is it to be an Alta member? Will uses the National Geographic membership metaphor. So we're trying to figure out what it is you give people. Right now we're just trying to, we're 3 issues in, we're trying to build an audience. But I could see us eventually putting things, we just don't want to do it and there's only, 70 people looking at it. It's kind of weird to put a paywall around it. But yeah, I can see that happening.
I think TV Insider is still in its infancy. When NTVB bought TV Guide in October 2015, it wasn't doing very much. We've had a couple of pauses, we've had changes of direction. We now feel we've got the right team in place. And if we can make it unique, then we would love to put up a paywall. I mean, if there was a way of doing that, we would do it.
We do charge for digital, and our biggest audience is overseas, and I believe it was your talk last night, but I'm only charging $10.99 for the digital and $48 for the print. Why? It's the same content. So I think we're going to change the price in 2019.